not every backwards compatible PS3 is built the same. The initial launch models, CECHE and B, have a full PS2 SoC on the motherboard, so that's the PS2's Emulation engine and graphics synthesizer built right in. However, the consoles that launched in Europe and the revised model in North America shortly after launch, CECHE, that console does not have the PS2's Emulation engine. The cell processor is emulating that, which means we lose some PS2 compatibility, and ultimately we see some PS2 games that break the console's backwards compatibility function. So let's take a look at some of those games and what they end up doing on these PS3 models. We got a lot of games to go through here. We're going to be testing a lot, and to start off, Area 51. I always wanted this game, and now I have it for this little experiment. This game allegedly does not work at all on this console, so I don't know what to expect, but we should actually have some results. If you remember, we did this for fully backwards compatible models, and the results were that the console played most of the games that we tested. So maybe this time around we'll actually see some things break like they're supposed to. So I also tested all these games on native PS2 hardware just to make sure we've got a good controlled test going on here on boots. So I know for a fact all these games work like they're supposed to. It's really a matter of seeing how this PlayStation 3 handles them. It's weird that I want this to, like, because this would be bad results, right? Like, you don't want this to happen, but yeah, the game would be loaded by now, so I think Area 51 does indeed not work on this console. Next up, we have The Bard's Tale, and this one just says graphical issues, so there's a few that have it listed as just a generic complaint of graphics issues, so that will be fun to validate. We don't know what we're looking for exactly, but let's see. Yes, graphics issues. A lot of clipping here on... Ooh, alright. Alright, so one thing we can, I think, safely say here is that this is like a pretty standard, or a pretty common behavior pattern when a game doesn't work right, across anything, more or less, which is always like these flickering textures. So, and I've got some in here that are definitely a bit more unusual in terms of what they're supposed to do, but, you know, this is also par for the course where a game maybe isn't running correctly. You've got all these like flickering textures and geometry. Okay, black for the PS2. I really want to see this one come up, which is during this game you could randomly teleport to a nearby location, or you might get stuck and the title hangs, which is such an oddly specific problem that I really hope we can get to come up. Oh, there we go. Just trying to go through that door a little. Got a little dodgy there. Oh yeah, this is all trippy. It's like almost like you're trying to run through the wind and the wind's pushing you back. It's not quite a teleporting to another area of the, of the level, but it's definitely kind of pushing you away. It's got to be some like very specific trigger points for the teleporting thing, which I would have loved to see, but I've gotten stuck a few times, but not teleported. Okay, next is Bloodrayne 2, and this one's got a few problems. Game is unstable on some levels, takes several tries to load, and also throughout gameplay, extraneous graphics randomly appear. Some or all these things may show up, so let's take a look. Well, right away, we have a giant line cutting through the screen. So, and, very subtle. Like if you look at the wall, bunch of like little, yeah, static bars flickering in. So that's just like the second we load it in, that's there. So if we've got that right off the bat, you gotta assume that the level loading problem also comes up at some point. It's so weird how like there's just certain things with visual artifacts that become so specific. But it, you know, it always depends on like what's going on in the game. But like, you know, normally you can like walk up to a wall and the, you know, if the textures are a problem, that's where you get some flickering, or you know, they might be missing or something weird like that, right? But sometimes you can like walk up to a specific like 3D model or some kind of NPC or whatever the case is, right? And their geometry could like pop off in a weird way based on the angle of which you're looking at them. There's so many ways it can go, and so that's why I find it fascinating that sometimes games produce very specific things, like this line going across the screen, right? Like that's just, I don't know, something to think about. Burnout 2 Point of Impact. Like Bloodrayne, a very specific issue, which is black shadows and taillights appear as a bright white, and I would like to see that. Okay. It is a bright white. A very bright white. Oh, every car has it. Oh, that's great. So, I mean, in theory, it's playable. Right? I mean, so, like, sometimes the issue... Ooh, yeah, that one's super bright. What the... Okay, like, the trucks are just, like, completely white. It's, you know, it's like, when you look at things like this, it's more of a tolerance thing. The game is playable, as in it's not broken. But would you want to play it like this? Probably not. I'm actually pretty excited about this one because I had it, and I didn't think it was that bad back in the day, which is Crash Twinsanity, and at any point during gameplay, it can hang or lock up more or less. I assume that's what they're referring to here, so I guess I just get to play and wait for it to stop playing. Does this count? I didn't even get to start playing. I thought we could get past this. The snow plows are out. Did you hear? Buffalo got a lot of snow. Yay. I don't think I'm going to even get in the game. What a bummer. I thought I was going to be able to at least play a bit until it did this. Alright, we got a lot going on with this next one. It is Dawn of Mana, and for this, throughout gameplay, various characters move erratically or do not perform as intended. Throughout gameplay, various character model graphics appear corrupted and or randomly twitch. So a lot going on with this one, and I just hope it comes up soon because it's a Square Enix game, so it's going to take longer if it doesn't show these things right away. I don't even know how long the game is. I just assume you see Square and you're like, uh-oh, it's gonna take a while. Yeah, 14 hours main story, like that's a short game nowadays to some people. Nowadays I see 14 hours and I'm like, oh, maybe I can do it in a weekend. Well, that one's already looking a little weird. Yeah. All in-game cutscenes, so these are the real models, and that's why they're getting all messed up here. Oh, you've got an actual nose. Okay, I don't know what he's supposed to look like. I've never played this one. Well, I guess we already saw what could happen, so it probably gets worse, or at the very least shows up pretty frequently. I can say I have one little unique story for this game, which is when I went to test all these games on real PS2 hardware, I just picked up a memory card that I had just gotten because I just needed some spare extra PS2 memory cards. And so I didn't clear any of them. You know, I just took them out of the packaging and just started using them. And so when I got to this game, it said continue save file. And I didn't think much of it, but I just hit like X for some reason, thinking like it, you know, I didn't think it would work, you know, because some games let you hit continue, then it will go, oh, there's no save file. It just loaded a save file. I'm like, what? Because you know what the odds are of that happening? So then I backed out, and sure enough, there was an existing Dawn of Mana PS2 save file on that memory card. That just seemed crazy to me, because there's how many PS2 games out there? And I landed on a memory card that had a pre-existing save file. Alright, story time over. Alright, next one we have is Evergrace, a From Software game, and also a PlayStation 2 launch title. Pretty sure it was on launch. And flickering textures, but also those textures might not even appear, so... Hey, flickering textures, what up? Whoa, okay, we're getting a little... Calm down now, we're getting a little wild over here. We're getting to gameplay first. Well, this appears to be an open and shut case, huh? Just started, so... Don't think you're going to want to play this game like this on a CECHC model. Or E, for that matter. Definitely sucks for PAL consoles, but... that's the only option, you know? Well, this area is looking fine. As long as there's no trees. Yeah, no trees, it's okay. You know, it's got some playable spots. Now, you might be surprised to find out we've actually got some very big, well-known PS2 games in here coming up, like God of War. So, with this one, during FMV sequences, there's an overlap of static and distortion of audio playing during those cutscenes, and then also Kratos apparently does not have any shadows casting, which both of those not really a massive issue. If it's your first time through, you might not want to do it that way, but it sounds like you can still play the game just fine. Okay, well, right away we have no audio, as far as I can hear. Yeah, there's no audio. I mean, there's just nothing playing. Still no audio. There we go. Alright, maybe it was a fluke.
But it had not always been this way. Kratos had once been a champion of the gods.
So I had one instance where no audio, and then most of that was fine up until the very end where there was like a slight jitter in the audio. Or something overlapped it to make it sound a little weird. I don't know, seems unreliable. I only did it twice, but do it enough times, I'm sure you'll get that to come up pretty often. Alright, another big one here. A really huge favorite from me, which is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. So the reported problem here is that there's vertical scan lines that are far more noticeable than on the standard launch models, which I didn't even know that was a thing there, as well as more pop-in, and occasionally weather does not render properly, resulting in graphical glitches such as rain during a sunny day. I doubt we're going to be able to see that because, you know, you could play this game for so long, but we'll still try and see what these vertical scan lines are about. Yeah, I guess I can kind of see them. Barely. Gotta really zoom in. I don't even know if that'll show up on the capture software. I think it's pretty subtle. I think you can pick it out against the wall there. Jak and Daxter. Didn't even realize one of my favorite games of all time has problems on this PS3 model. So what happens is it'll freeze randomly, and most of the time it should resume after waiting for a minute or two, which seems a bit extreme to have it lock up for up to a minute, and then it does kind of unstuck itself, and that's what I want to check out here. Well, it doesn't run well on this console. It jitters a lot. The cutscenes have that, like, up and down jitter that... Oh! There we go. Alright, so right on Geyser Rock. Oh, it's like a complete, yeah, it comes to not even like a total freezing halt. Like frame by frame, it's just, it's boom, it's done. And so I guess if we wait long enough, it's gonna come back. Yes, all right. No. No. I got ahead of myself. Wow, what a shame. Well, I think we can call it here, right? This is the tutorial stage, so the sooner it happens, the more you know it's going to be like a huge thing throughout the entire game. Oh, it's back. Okay. So that's what happens. Very unique for sure. Haven't seen a game like do that yet on this thing. You can't play it on this. No way. Now, if you thought Jack was bad, I got worse news for Ratchet and Clank, where this game runs at like a 25-30% speed, or maybe half speed, but essentially the game the entire time does not run very well at all. So let's take a look. You know, it's not even that bad right now, I feel like. There you go. It's not like constant, but it's it's hard to describe, because I think if you're just watching this, it doesn't look slow, but it's got some slow down moments you can probably pick out pretty easy. Whoa. Look at that. It's super slow. Wow, this is... Oh, no! Ratchet, what are you doing? Yeah, this isn't cool. And they're all like this too. Every Ratchet and Clank game on PlayStation 2. Just how these games were made and how the cell processor is trying to emulate the Emulation engine. You know, it's like a consistent behavior across all these Insomniac games. So, this is one example, but they all do this. Wow, it's coming to a complete crawl. Very unique problem for this one that makes the game unplayable. In Tales of Legendia, the background is the only thing you see, so you can't see anything else, just the background graphics. So that would render the game totally unplayable, but let's see what that looks like. Oh my. Is it the background graphics don't appear? Did I read that wrong? Throughout gameplay, wait. Background graphics are all that are visible. Really? Because the foreground is about as visible as it gets currently. Whoop. I'm going to take a wild guess and say... Okay. There is nothing showing up. Oh, alright. So the description was kind of weird for this, because... Boy, we got a lot of problems going on. Another PS2 launch game, Tekken Tag Tournament. This one, like Ratchet and Clank, runs at a very slow speed, and for a fighter, you know, kind of a done deal. Can't really play it like that. the way Yoshimitsu came in so slow. Oh wow, look at this. You know what's strange too is that, like, with Ratchet, it had some like smooth moments, and then it would kind of like, you know, taper off when like there's a bunch of crates or something. This is just like full on, somebody applied a 25% speed filter on this, or like visual effect, and it's just consistent the whole way through. Wow. Very weird. Alright, well, as we're wrapping up here, this is probably a good time to bring up, you know, the thing with this particular console where, you know, you might look at this and go, alright, well, yeah, definitely these PS2 games are not looking that good, so why would I, you know, if I'm in the market for a backwards compatible PS3, why would I buy this one? And, you know, it's always worth pointing out, we're only looking at the ones that are going to exhibit problems. This particular PlayStation 3 has always been estimated to be around 75–80% compatible with the entire PS2 library, which is still thousands of games. That's a lot. It's just that the CECHE A and B models will be nearly perfect. We're talking 99% basically. So if you do value just throwing anything at that console for it to play, that is the one to get. However, there is a benefit to this machine in particular, and that's that with the cell processor emulating the Emulation engine, it does seem to produce visually more appealing PlayStation 2 games. Like, they look a bit sharper. So I'll throw up some side-by-sides and you can be the judge. But it seems like most would agree that these PS2 games, assuming they work and they function just fine, they tend to come out looking better on this console. So you might value that more, and that's with the smoothing filter on and off. But it's really down to a preference thing. These are still totally worth getting if you plan on having it for a long time, keeping up with maintenance, because of course they do need a little bit of extra care. But otherwise, yeah, it's interesting to see how, you know, some of these games definitely don't look that great. So, with all that, what did we learn today? I would say not a whole lot, because we already went over why the console isn't nearly as compatible as the launch models, but it was still fun to look at, especially because it does still play most PS2 games, but when we're talking about 20% that does not work, you are bound to run into games that do what we showed off today, where there's severe graphics issues, or they just flat out don't play at all. But still something where you might want to consider buying this machine. Don't overlook it, don't ignore it. It still plays a lot of PS2 games. Sometimes they often look better on this console, and so if you're looking for a backwards compatible PS3 that plays PS2 games, as long as you're in it for taking care of it, the maintenance, giving it some TLC over the years, by all accounts, every backwards compatible PS3 is worth owning and playing in my book. But still, I thought it was fun to take a look at these games. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you haven't just yet, please consider subscribing for the best PlayStation news, reviews, and updates that are here on YouTube. You can also follow me on Twitter @MysticRyan, and that is it. I will see you all in my next video. You take it easy.